hearing this from Starbucks, but we at Cairo 7 have tracked at least 29 of their stores that will close this weekend.
Starbucks isn't just selling you coffee. No, Starbucks is selling you a fantasy in a paper cup. Think about it, the warm golden lighting that makes you look 10 years younger on Instagram. The carefully curated indie playlist that makes you feel like the main character in a Netflix drama. The barista scribbling your name. And, let's be honest, usually butchering it. Like there's some mystical scribe turning your $7 latte into a sacred ritual. But let's drop the filter for a second. This isn't a cozy coffee shop. This is a psychology lab with a cash register. And guess what? You're the experiment. That $6.95 latte you're holding? Strip away the mood lighting and the caramel drizzle, and you're left with about 65 cents worth of coffee beans, 30 cents of milk, and maybe 15 cents of syrup. That's it. The other $6? That's paying for rent, marketing campaigns, and a corporate bonus so fat it could feed a small village. You're not buying coffee. You're buying the illusion that your caffeine habit is actually self-care. And it works because Starbucks knows how to play your brain like a fiddle. Notice how it's $6.95 instead of $7? That's not an accident. That's marketing psychology 101. It's the same trick that makes people think a used car at $9,999 feels cheaper than $10,000. You know it's nonsense. They know you know. And yet, it still works. But let's dig into what's actually inside that cup. And spoiler alert, it ain't pretty. That innocent-looking grande vanilla frappuccino? It packs 68 grams of sugar. That's more sugar than 2 full-size Snickers bars or a pile of 16 sugar cubes stacked in your stomach. And the American Heart Association? They recommend no more than 25 grams a day for women, 36 for men. One frappuccino doesn't just cross the line, it nukes the line, drives over it, and leaves it in the dust. Starbucks pulled off one of the slickest rebrands in modern history. They convinced the world that a milkshake with a whisper of espresso counts as coffee. Think about it. Most of their coffee drinks are one sad shot of espresso drowned in milk, syrup, whipped cream, and caramel drizzle. It's not coffee, it's dessert in disguise. And that's where the trap springs shut. You think you're getting an energy boost? But here's what really happens. Sugar spike, sugar crash, brain fog. Studies show that half of sugary coffee drinkers actually feel more tired 3 hours later than before they even walked in the door. Starbucks is selling you exhaustion wrapped in whipped cream. But of course, it tastes good. That's the point. They've engineered it to taste like heaven while wrecking your energy, your wallet, and, surprise, even the planet. Because let's talk about the cup. That iconic white paper cup with the green mermaid. The one you've Instagrammed 100 times? It feels recyclable. It looks recyclable. But guess what? It's not. Over 4 billion of those cups are trashed every year, enough to wrap around the planet 11 times. And why? Because every cup is lined with plastic to stop leaks, which makes them almost impossible to recycle. Less than 1% ever actually get recycled. Starbucks knows this, of course. But instead of fixing the problem, they toss you a bone. Bring your own cup and save 10 cents. 10 cents on a $7 drink. That's not eco-consciousness. That's corporate lint disguised as a discount. And the kicker? Only about 1.6% of customers actually bring their own cup. Everyone else is just pumping billions of cups into landfills, while Starbucks pats itself on the back for green progress. And next time you see that glossy sign in the store, we aim to reduce waste by 30% by 2030. Remember this, cup production is actually going up by 5% every single year. That's not progress. That's corporate theater, a sustainability performance designed to make you feel good while nothing actually changes. This is what Starbucks does best. They sell you sugar and caffeine as a lifestyle, plastic trash as eco-friendly, and the illusion of indulgence as necessity. It's not just coffee, it's one of the slickest cons in the consumer world, and it's working. Let's talk about loyalty. Because at Starbucks, loyalty doesn't mean what you think it means. You probably imagine it's about getting rewarded for being a good customer. You buy drinks, you earn stars, you cash in a free latte. Fair trade, right? Wrong. What Starbucks built isn't a reward system. It's a casino in your pocket, complete with flashing lights and dopamine hits. Except instead of slot machines, you're pulling espresso shots. Here's how it really works. Back in the day, 12 purchases got you a free drink. Today, that's gone. Now you'll need 25 stars just for a plain coffee and up to 200 for something more elaborate. And how do you earn stars? One or two at a time. Unless, of course, you play the bonus games in the app. You know, visit 5 times this week for 70 extra stars. Translation: spend $35 to get about $2.80 worth of perks. It's a scam wrapped in confetti. But here's the evil genius. Because it's not cash, it doesn't feel like spending. It feels like progress. Every tap of the app, every push notification, every "you're so close to your next reward" is a psychological hook. You're not earning free drinks, you're chasing digital dopamine. That's how casinos keep people glued to slot machines. The lights, the sounds, the promise that you're almost there. Starbucks stole the playbook, swapped the cherries for caramel drizzle, and now they've got millions of people hooked on a game they can never win. And it's working. Members of the Starbucks Rewards program spend 125% more than non-members. They visit 40% more often. They upgrade to bigger sizes more frequently. Not because they wanted to, but because the app nudged them. Starbucks doesn't reward loyalty. Starbucks manufactures it. Now let's talk about wait times. Remember when the drive-thru was the fastest way to grab a coffee? Those days are dead. In 2010, the average wait was about 4 minutes. In 2023, it's more than 8 minutes. Double the time, same overpriced latte. So what happened? Mobile ordering was supposed to fix it, right? Wrong. Mobile orders have turned Starbucks into a 3-ring circus. Walk-ins, drive-thru, and now an avalanche of app orders all colliding at once. Some locations get 120 mobile orders in the morning rush alone. That's on top of the line of people and the line of cars. And here's the kicker. It's not first come, first served. Nope. If you've been waiting in line for 5 minutes and some gold status customer places a mobile order from their car in the parking lot, their drink might get made before yours. It's called order prioritization, and it's designed to reward engagement with the app, not patience. Baristas call it the rush hour bottleneck. 3 queues, 2 blenders, 1 espresso machine, 0 sanity. And who suffers? You. The customer who's now late for work, holding a lukewarm latte you didn't even want that badly. But here's the cold truth. Starbucks doesn't care about the wait, because they know something you don't. It's called the queue commitment threshold. Research shows that once you've been waiting 3 minutes, 95% of customers will stay, even if the line gets longer. In other words, you're already trapped. Starbucks has no incentive to speed things up, because your frustration equals their profit. And while you're standing there, you're getting bombarded with seasonal hype. Enter Starbucks' nuclear weapon, the pumpkin spice latte. Introduced in 2003, the PSL now generates over $500 million a year. But here's the fun fact nobody talks about. Until 2015, it didn't even contain pumpkin, just sugar, spices, and marketing pixie dust. And still, people lined up like it was a pilgrimage to Mecca. Why? 2 words: artificial scarcity. Starbucks limits PSL season to 3 months. And that artificial time limit creates panic buying. The same logic that made people hoard toilet paper in 2020 is the same logic that makes people pay $60 for black market pumpkin syrup online. It's not coffee, it's not even about flavor. It's a seasonal identity crisis in a paper cup. Blind taste tests have shown that people rate the same drink 24% higher when it's served in a Starbucks cup. That's branding sorcery. You're not buying a beverage, you're buying a story, a vibe, a lifestyle. And Starbucks knows it. So now you've paid your $7, earned a couple of useless stars, waited twice as long as you used to, and gotten a dessert disguised as coffee. And you feel like you've treated yourself. But Starbucks, they've just pulled another quarter out of your pocket while convincing you it was your idea. Let's pull back the curtain and look behind the counter, because the people making your caramel drizzle, half foam, oat milk PSL aren't living the dream. They're living the grind. The average Starbucks barista makes around $13 an hour. That's about $27,000 a year if they're lucky enough to get full-time hours, which most don't. Meanwhile, a single store can generate $700,000 or more per year. The company itself? Over $3.3 billion in annual profit. But the person pulling shots to fuel that profit? They can barely afford the same drinks they're serving. And here's the kicker. To qualify for benefits, you need to work at least 20 hours a week. So what do some stores do? They schedule workers for 19.5 hours. Not a coincidence, just a corporate spreadsheet move dressed up as scheduling. It's like dangling health insurance just out of reach, week after week, until you're too tired to fight back. Add in chaotic shift changes with less than 24 hours notice, unpredictable schedules, and entitled customers who think no whip is a legally binding contract. And you've got a burnout factory in full swing. Turnover rates at some locations hit 100% a year. That means the entire staff quits and gets replaced every single year. Imagine walking into your local store and realizing every familiar face is gone. That's not just bad for morale, it's bad for your latte. Because it takes time to train new employees, and Starbucks doesn't exactly hand out Barista PhDs. Some workers last months, some just weeks. A few don't even make it through their first shift before walking out. And these are the people expected to juggle walk-ins, drive-through chaos, and 120 mobile orders stacked on top, sometimes making 8 drinks a minute during rush hour. That's not a coffee shop. That's an assembly line with a Spotify playlist. And let's talk about the names on your cups. Ever wonder why your Jessica became Jestika? Or why your Michael magically turned into Michael? It's not always an accident. Rumors, and even some leaked training notes, suggest baristas are encouraged to get creative with names. Why? Because when you post that cup on Instagram to laugh at the spelling, Starbucks just got free advertising. Think about it. You buy a $7 drink. They butcher your name on purpose. You take a picture, upload it, tag Starbucks. Suddenly, your friends want one too. That's not bad service. That's weaponized misspelling. Now, brace yourself for one of the grossest Starbucks secrets. Until 2012, Starbucks used cochineal extract, a bright red food dye made by grinding up crushed beetles, in drinks like strawberry frappuccinos. Yes, actual bugs. People found out they were sipping insect smoothies with whipped cream on top, and the backlash was so bad that Starbucks scrambled to replace it with a tomato-based alternative. But here's the lesson. They only stopped when they were caught. How many other surprises are still slipping under the radar? And speaking of healthy options, let's break that illusion too. Almond milk? Mostly water, sugar, and additives, with maybe 2% almonds if you're lucky. Oat milk? Costs less to produce than dairy milk, but Starbucks charges you an extra 75 cents. A surcharge that brings in over $200 million a year. Healthy? Maybe. Profitable? Absolutely. Even their plant-based breakfast sandwiches, the ones advertised as better for you, have 30 fewer calories than the regular version, but 15 more unpronounceable ingredients. That's not health food. That's PR dressed up with vegan buzzwords. Oh, and decaf? Don't get too cozy. A 16-ounce decaf at Starbucks can still have up to 30 milligrams of caffeine. Drink 2 or 3 and you're wired all over again. That crash you thought you were avoiding? Still coming. Starbucks engineers it that way. Their dark roasts have 22% more caffeine than competitors, because your jitters equal their sales. The cycle is simple: buzz, crash, repeat. Here's the math. A $7 Starbucks drink 5 times a week is $35. That's $1,820 a year. Not rent, not groceries, not a vacation, not even good coffee, just liquid sugar in a paper cup that'll end up in a landfill. And let's not forget about those cups. The iconic white Starbucks cup looks recyclable, feels recyclable. Spoiler, it's not. They're lined with plastic that makes them nearly impossible to recycle. Less than 1% actually get recycled. The rest? Landfills. And Starbucks knows it. They throw you a 10-cent discount if you bring your own reusable cup. 10 cents on a $7 drink. That's like tipping your waiter with lint. So while you're sipping your overpriced latte, Starbucks is making billions. Workers are burning out. Customers are waiting twice as long. And the planet is choking on plastic cups that'll still be here when your grandkids graduate college. But hey, your name is on the cup. Sort of. At the end of the day, Starbucks isn't selling you coffee. They're selling you an illusion. A $7 cup that costs 65 cents to make, a loyalty game rigged to drain your wallet, and a feel-good brand built on burned-out workers and billions of trash cups. You're not buying quality, you're buying marketing. And so before you line up for your next latte, ask yourself, am I paying for coffee or for a story I've been sold? If this video opened your eyes, hit that like button, drop your never again order in the comments, and subscribe to Frugal Pro, where we cut through the foam and tell you the truth big brands don't want you to know. Stay sharp, spend smart, don't get frothed into overspending.